Those Days with the Monsters, Part 43. It had been a few days since Grumpy had made the announcement that Captain Amelia was banned from part of the derelict. As a result, Kirrel was now also functionally banned from the same areas. Whenever he entered Grumpy's space and carefully closed the door behind him, a very insistent series of squawks would eventually sound at the door until he came out. It had significantly startled Kirrel initially, but at last the strange sounds had stopped, and he'd breathed a sigh of relief, until Captain Amelia rubbed against his legs. He could still hear the long litany of words Grumpy had released as he tried to find the route she'd used to get inside. After they'd found the unbelievably tiny hole she must have squirmed through, Grumpy let out another list of words, refused to explain them, and told Kirrel to go out and she'll follow you. Kirrel hadn't expected it to actually work, and yet he seemed to be capable of preventing Captain Amelia's return to Grumpy's lab by simply not going there himself. He didn't think she was following him. He rarely saw her. That might not be the best way to tell, come to think of it. Even so, ever since he was banned from the lab, Tinker said the cat hadn't tried to get back in. Kirrel assumed Tinker was making some kind of joke that he didn't understand. Probably a species thing. A loud thump recalled Kirrel's mind to the present. Right. Oops. The thump had been him, landing on the mat again. He hadn't even fallen properly this time, as the dull ache in his hips demonstrated. What's distracting you, Squishy? Smee asked, pulling him up. It shouldn't be that easy. I am... Kirrel's frills flared slightly at the quiet tap-tap-tap of padded paws. He still liked that word, paws. Oh look, we have a visitor. Smee reached out to the cat, and Kirrel's frills pulsed a nervous yellow. Smee didn't have a metal hand. If she bit, there would be blood. Kirrel didn't like cumin blood. It was red, the colour of alarm, and he just felt uneasy seeing it. He wasn't sure why exactly. Smee's hand went around the back of Captain Amelia's head, and Kirrel's frills flared. He was going to startle the beast? That seemed like a terrible idea, perhaps the worst he'd ever seen the cumins have. Red crept into Kirrel's frills as Captain Amelia's head moved up, and then Smee started rubbing it. Head pats? Did head pats work on a species like cats? But Captain Amelia pushed the back of her head into Smee's hand, as if asking for more. Apparently yes, head pats did work on a cat. Hey Squishy, come here. Smee gestured with his free hand. Frills fuchsia and red. Kirrel crept closer. Here, like this. Smee had grabbed one of Kirrel's claws and brought it close to Captain Amelia's back. Feel that? Captain Amelia was shaking, but she didn't seem worried or unhappy. Kirrel's frills turned a deeper fuchsia. What was this? That's a purr. You hear it? Captain Amelia's is a loud one. There was some sort of rumble in the air, but Kirrel had assumed it was something mechanical. It was the cat. Is she? Does it hurt her? Smee abruptly burst out with a loud amusement noise. She? No. It doesn't hurt her. It means she's happy. Doc says it does other things too, but mostly she's happy. I see. Kirrel felt his claws vibrating, buried in soft black and white fur. This wasn't bad. Not at all. If most cats purred more than they bit, he could see why the cumins liked them. Is this why the cumins have cats? They were probably meant to hunt mice at first, but somewhere along the way we learned about purring and, yeah, we have a lot of cats. Smee went back to rubbing Captain Amelia's head. We like her a lot. Alex was bitten though. I mean, she has boundaries. Smee shrugged. You probably don't want people yanking on your frills. Doesn't mean you're not friendly. Kirrel hadn't thought about that. He found himself thinking about a lot of things, actually. What's on your mind? Smee was looking at him with a serious expression. Kirrel wasn't sure why. Had he been quiet for too long? Anxiously, he blurted out the first thing that came to mind.
why are you and Alex here? Sneezy said most of you don't have anywhere to go, but you and Alex should have somewhere to go.
Smee froze for a minute, then sighed and rubbed his face with his hands. Oh boy, you really... Wow, I guess you should know, but it really isn't my story to tell.
But it's why you're here. How is it not your story?
Kirrel couldn't help the confused teal running over his frills.
It's about you.
Smee's hand clenched in his lap. Captain Amelia stretched out a paw and poked him. It almost looked as if she was asking for more rubs. When Smee didn't respond, she patted him insistently. I didn't really think about it, I guess. I mean, I was there too, but do I really have the right to make it my story?
That doesn't make sense. If you were there, and it's why you're here, it's your story, right?
Kirrel felt like he was missing something important. Smee was acting like, not a rollaway exactly, but something similar, like a secondary, an unimportant clutch member there to make up the numbers. That didn't seem right. Alex took care of him. He wasn't a secondary. I don't know. You don't know the whole story. Smee seemed slightly agitated. Why? Had Kirrel done something wrong? But he didn't feel right letting it go.
What if you tell me? I'll know then, won't I?
Suddenly Kirrel realised what the problem might be.
What does Alex say about it?
I didn't ask. Smee stared at his hands. Captain Amelia gave up and lay down, her tail twitching slightly. It didn't seem right.
Well, if you've never asked, how do you know? You don't seem like a secondary.
It was odd the way so many of these humans were acting like secondaries and rollaways. He couldn't understand it. They weren't. So why? Secondary? Smee looked up, his eyes questioning. When had Kirrel learned what that look meant? Kirrel shook his head.
I'll explain later. Do you want to tell me?
I don't know. In the quiet after the statement, Smee stared at his hands again. It's not easy to talk about. Kirrel got the feeling he should be quiet. After another minute, Smee swallowed, hesitated, and then spoke. Well, Alex was in the middle of her third championship. She was crushing it the way she always does. There wasn't a lot of competition early on, but we all knew she'd be up against Ormese in the end. They were saving it for the finals, of course. Everyone was looking forward to it. Smee sighed. Then someone in the qualifiers accused Ormese of doping, and it all went downhill from there.
What's doping?
It's taking drugs to do better at a sport. Anyway, it turned out Ormese was doping, and he was disqualified. Alex breezed through, of course. There wasn't a lot that could stop her after Ormese got the boot. Kirrel had no idea what half the metaphors Smee was using meant, but it didn't seem like the time to ask. Smee seemed older, more tired, as he spoke, and Kirrel got the sense that if he stopped now, he'd never talk about this again. There didn't seem to be anything weird about it yet, though. Trouble was that Ormese was from Europa, and we're Mars-born.
I don't know what that means.
Europa and Mars are colonies. They've had a bad relationship since before we figured out how to get into jump. So when the Europan powerhouse was disqualified, he got it in his head it was Alex's fault. He would have been close to a match for Alex in the ring, but he had a knife, and she didn't. Smee buried his head in his hands and groaned. I was with her. We were going out to eat after I passed my advanced arms course. His shoulders shook. I had my pistol on me. I'd aced the damn course. I had a clear shot. Damn it, Squishy, it's my fault. Do you get it now? Kirrel's stomach sank.
What did you do?
He asked quietly. I didn't do. Smee smacked the floor with a clenched fist. Kirrel jumped to the loud metallic bang. I should have done, and I didn't, not until her hand was... Smee choked and seemed to fold in on himself. I froze up. Nobody told me there was a difference between a police training course and getting jumped in an alley. I didn't get my head back until the blood... Smee's voice seemed to die in his throat. For a moment there was silence. Then, with a rough voice, "Damn it, Squishy. This is why I didn't want to talk about it."
"What happened to Ormise?"
Kirrel asked, frills pulsing yellow. Had Alex managed to beat him with one hand missing? "Dead. I figured it out when Alex..." Smee swallowed and shook his head. "I figured it out and shot him, point blank. But, I couldn't go back to the force after that. Kept seeing the alley all over again. So when Alex got her new hand, she took me out here."
"It doesn't sound like she blames you."
"The hell does that matter?" Smee smacked the metal floor again. "She doesn't have to. We both know whose fault it is." After a moment, his anger seemed to fade. "She tried to teach me how to fight, and I did okay when it was just learning the motions. But whenever she tried to get me to fight someone else, I can't. I just see the alley all over again."
"But you fight me pretty well."
Kirrel sighed. No wonder Smee was considered the weakest of the Cumans, and he still beat Kirrel 9 times out of 10 even now. "You don't look human. It doesn't make me think about that." Smee sighed. "Weird, huh? Something as small as fighting a human can make me lock up. Isn't it pathetic? I bet Alex shakes her head over me."
"It doesn't seem like it."
Smee sighed again and lay down on the mat. Captain Amelia quietly tapped her way over and lay down as well, her tail draping over Smee's mouth. He moved it with one finger, only to have her twitch it away and replace it over his mouth. "You sure?" Smee's expression changed as Captain Amelia flicked her tail again when he opened his mouth. Kirrel hesitated. Was he sure? There was so much he didn't know about Cumans. He might just be interpreting it the way he wanted to. Still, he was sure of one thing.
"Well, at the very least, it sounds like it's your story as much as hers."
"I don't know about that either." Smee was now holding Captain Amelia's tail away from his mouth with the back of his hand, while Captain Amelia eyed him in what looked like indignation. "But, thanks, Squishy."
Read by me, A Good Bean.